to reshoot because of technical difficulty. Computer died, but we're back. Most important announcement, and this is the 6th time I've done this. So when it happens, and I know we're almost full at 8:30 and 9:45 now. Now filling up with the 11:30 too. I did mention it 6 times now, and I know there's a bunch of people that think you got a spot. Because normally you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to move in at 8:30. It's not available.
Mm-hmm.
So now maybe there's one spot at 8:30 because I moved somebody, but 9:45 has a few. So if you want that spot, you're gonna have to call in like right now, reserve it. Because even if you're continuing, you still have to say that you want that spot because we're filling it up like in blocks.
Yeah.
So once it's filled, I can't go anywhere. We only have space for 20 per class. So do that ASAP, please. And second of all, we have a whole bunch of cool news from this week. And one of the main things is that NBC doing the story on here from last week.
Yep.
They're going to give us a preview. Should be today or tomorrow. A preview shot of it. I'll post it in here. You guys just don't share it. Of course, it's a half-hour story about Destin Lasco, and they make a stop here. They do stop at Mainland. They go up to see Jim Ellis up at PDR, who they made the movie about. And so that's a new exciting thing. Josh and I just got invited to LSU this summer to go visit with the track and field team, strength and conditioning coach of the football team from Eddie Kennison. We're going to spend a weekend with him down at LSU and just see how they operate and kind of compare and contrast things. I mean, we can learn equipment that they have that we haven't seen yet. I think we've seen it all. Yeah. But we'll see. You never know. And the thing is, they're open to learn new things too.
Yeah, which is great.
It'll be a fun trip. In the meantime, we got some other things going on that we almost can't talk about just yet. We have one extension facility that's possibly going to go down in Massachusetts real soon. And then, there's just other that would just really extend it to be where I went to college. And the other one, if there's ever another one, it'd probably be in Kansas City with one of my friends out there who would love to have a climbing performance method out there. But neat things, lots of stuff going on. Summer's coming really quickly upon us, and Memorial Day weekend, I posted a email today, no practice on Monday. So we're off Monday, obviously. We're off Monday. Josh is taking the weekend off. He asked for 2 weekends off, Memorial Day and Labor Day. That's it for the whole year. He doesn't care about Christmas, Easter, nothing, just Memorial Day and Labor Day. So we'll give him those days off. But we are doing max velocity. Yep. So we're going to switch over to our Who Dat Athlete.
Who that? Who that? Who that? Who that?
As usual, in this facility, that is music royalty. But who else is royalty in this facility is our athlete of the week, who is
Dom Palestina for winning the Cal.
The Cals, even though he can't beat Josh in a game.
He's your teammate. Yeah, he's my teammate. He's my teammate in golf. Yeah, but Dom came in, won the Cal, first place. He's been golfing, for a while now. He's been training with us. Like we talk about, the Palestinas are in nonstop. Dom just takes off during golf season, but when Vinny was training with us, when older brother or younger brother still trains with us too, Cole, they train through all sport. They go to tennis, they train here. They do cross country, they train here. They do winter track, they train here. So they're constantly in. And Dom had a crazy way of winning. He was down, I think he said at 1.5 strokes to come back, birdie and eagle back to back or something like that. And then he finally sunk the last hole with a putt and just went crazy. He said
it's neat that he trains like an athlete. He doesn't train like a golfer.
No,
he trains like an athlete and then plays golf. It's neat to note that, and this is a rumor. I don't know how true it is, but I heard that Tiger Woods could run a sub 11 second 100 meters. And then could also bench press like 400 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, we'll have to fact check that, but we'll see.
On that. But he's an athlete that plays, and he's one of the first guys that was just like an athlete playing golf. He wasn't just a golfer.
I think like that's what Dom is. Like Dom's over 30 inches on the vertical leap. He runs an exceptional accelerator. If you watch him run, you're like, well, I can fly a little bit. So again, like we just preached that yesterday, talking about how you don't change your training depending on who you are, like what sport you play. Train all these guys like athletes. Train these guys like pro football players, pro track guys, and that's what we do. And we raise that CNS. We teach the CNS how to output more, and then by default they get better at their sport. And I said in the last episode, but it didn't go through because of the computer. But Brian Kula trains Christian McCaffrey. He also trains a lot of golfers. He said that he improved 2 girls' golf times, their max velocities, by 2 miles an hour, which we do on average, 2.2 miles an hour. He improved their miles an hour by just 2.
Running miles
per hour by 2. Swing speed went up 10 to 12 miles an hour on both. They were both between 10 and 12 mile an hour improvements at the end of that. And we talked today with just Joey Arachi's dad today about that, right? Like how Joey can get in and throw 90 plus miles an hour when he's testing how fast he can throw a baseball. He's never pitched before. But when he came to us, he wasn't the best runner and he wasn't the best jumper.
I sent a picture of him heel striking. It was the worst. It was the opposite. His toe could dorsiflex so high that he'd get his heel to the ground.
Yeah.
So is the most heel striking, overstriding I've ever seen anyone do. I'm surprised he didn't just get hurt running. And he was running as fast as he was jogging.
Yeah.
And now he's done a lot of work. He really committed hard to it. And guess what? One of the fastest 10-yard dashes in the country.
Yeah, and he throws a baseball extremely hard because his CNS is so well developed. And same thing happened there with Dom. And I'm really, really proud of him. We've had those guys now for probably 2 or 3 years. They started in the barn, came all the way over to this facility now, and they're still training. So it's great to see.
And congratulations on being the first ever person from a sport like golf to get our athlete. So we're proud of the kid. That's our Dom. Hats off to you.
Yeah, we'll play soon, dude.
Next, we're going to go inside the line. It's inside the walls of this facility. I wish we could record almost some of our conversations that we have. And this is kind of the portion where we rant on stuff that maybe a lot of people have asked us, and we're going to go, it's like an FAQ aspect. But we're just going to rant on this. And something that we get really passionate about is watching people go from taking the advice of going, all right, now I'm not going to specialize early, and to taking the complete extreme and going, I'm going to play 11 sports this year.
Yeah.
That is the absolute worst thing you could do.
Absolute worst thing you can do.
I've watched, because nonstop, you're not practicing like you're just constantly moving around. You're constantly sitting there watching a scheme and then getting in for a couple reps, and then watching a scheme and getting in for a couple reps. So you are doing nothing. It's like playing baseball year-round. It's probably the worst thing you can do for your body.
Exactly.
So if I had to do this all over again, let's say redo. I'm looking back. Hindsight's 20/20, right? In hindsight, I would have gone. I'd run a season of track. I would have trained like this probably for 2 out of those seasons, and then play my football season for the one.
Like and this is something that's very important. When we have athletes come in here and they just stick to our program and they don't try to outsmart us, or they just don't do it. Like Liam Kazmaier, or Mark, for instance, he just did the program. All he did, he said, this is going to be my second sport to lacrosse. This is all I'm going to do. And he had the best results out of anybody this year.
Lucas Hankins is doing the same thing.
Yeah, Lucas is going through the roof on the vertical leap. Through the roof. And this is so important because this is your second sport. This is what I've been saying to all the kids coming in. I'm like, this is your second sport. And the great thing about this sport is that when you go to your main sport, you're going to go in with a higher vertical leap, so a higher rate of force production. You're going to go in faster than you did before, and you're going to go in with a higher miles per hour. So we raise your MPH, and this could be a whole nother video in and of itself, but we raise your MPH. What does that do? Well, by default, now it becomes easier for you to hit your sub-max miles per hour. So now you're in better shape going into the season. So if you were 20 miles an hour when you started with us, you go up to 22. Well, now running your previous max at 20 miles an hour is pretty dang easy to do. Now your vertical leap, now you can go from 30 to 36 inches on the vertical leap. Well, now guess what? That 30 inches is pretty easy to do now. So now you go in creating more force, and you actually go into your sport knowing that you did real work that's going to translate into your sport, and you didn't do any junk volume that you then had to recover from. So,
and neat thing is, imagine if you're driving your car and you have to hit the gas pedal to the floor the entire time, and then you pull off the gas pedal and you're completely, you cannot do anything but think about running fast. If you can run it at 90-80% the whole time and get the same result as you had prior, and then have that extra gear to accelerate or to think properly, you're going to play your sport a million times better. That's why we can't really measure those things, but you have all that mental clarity for the 20% that you're gaining. Imagine going back and just playing as fast as you ever were with an extra gear behind that, and then when you need to use it, bam, you turn it on. And the signature with our athletes too is world class within 30 feet.
Acceleration is insane.
As soon as you your shoulders are face forward, bam, you're shot like a rocket. I can tell you, I can almost see them on the field who they are. And that's what's happening in here. We're seeing some insane results from our mainland group.
Yeah, mainland's killing it.
Mainland is killing
it.
And they come to work, man.
And those guys, see, like, the thing is, too, is, like, they have mandatory team lifts in the morning. They have to go. They lift every day, like, 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., and they still come in and get after it here. And we have kids all the time. I shouldn't say all the time. We have kids sometimes that are like, oh, I'm too beat up, I got to miss today. Or, coach, I'm just not feeling it. Like, these kids are grinding in the morning as hard as they can and then coming here and working, which is like, if you're going to lift weights, like, that's how you do it. Like, that's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to lift and work in with this at the same time so that, like, you can actually apply those forces over into running and moving. If you just lift weights in the wintertime, or you just lift weights from, the end of football season to the next football season, sure, you're going to get stronger, but, like, you don't even know if that's going to translate, and you're definitely not going to run very fast because you missed all the elasticity, you missed all the reactive strength, you missed key components in the running. And again, you look at Usain Bolt when he's in the weight room, he's strong, but he's not like Asafa Powell. He's not like some of these other guys that are extremely strong in the weight room. He lives through elasticity, and that elasticity is built by actually doing and running and moving. It's like basketball players dunking. They're not in the gym, and they're still jumping 50 feet or 50 inches off of a running start.
This one's going to be hard for you guys to swallow because unless you're really been here listening to every one of these, you won't understand how much a weight room is anti-elasticity.
Yeah, anti-elasticity.
Weight room is all absorption and re-expression in a slow manner. Elasticity is your limiting factor on really hitting high speeds. So we spend a ton of time, we measure elasticity through the reactive strength index. This is something that really high-speed runners have that quality. We locate the quality, look where the muscles that are used, look at the tendons that are used, ligaments, all the attachments and fascia that are used to be elastic, and helping that absorb shock and then re-express it fast.
Yeah, and
that doesn't happen in the weight room. Go slow
at all. I'll tell you an anecdotal story. I'm training to go play college football. This is before I met Dave, and I'm deep into Westside Barbell, which, if you guys know what that is, you know that's pretty deep into it. I'm reading Underground Secrets to Faster Running. I'm reading a lot of these books that most normal people don't know about, but in the strength and conditioning world, they're relatively big. I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, I got my weight. I'm box squatting over 500 pounds. I'm like, I'm 170 pounds. I'm deadlifting over 500 pounds. I'm like, this is great. Go down to the track. I start tracking in the spring. I start working out with a kid named Charles Hayden, who plays in the CFL right now. He's PCL #1 for the 100-meter dash. I'm like, I squat more than Charles. I'm reading all these books. I'm doing everything right. I'm going to beat him in a race. He didn't smoke me, but he beat me. And I'm like, Charles, how much weightlifting do you do? He's like, I don't lift weights. I'm like, oh, man. One of my best friends, Jameer. I'm like, Jameer, like, how are you so fast? He goes, I don't know, man, I just run. Now, he's a little bit of genetic, but he didn't lift weights. But they were very, very elastic. Every time they punched the ground, it looked like they just bounced back off. And I didn't understand that until I met you with the elasticity and how important that is.
If you look at what all of the track drilling is, it's pop, 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 quick off the ground, touch the ground and go, touch the ground. No heel striking at all. Your heel never connects to the ground. You're wearing spikes where all the plate of spikes is under the ball of your foot. There's nothing at your heel, so you don't touch your heel until you are walking off the track, and you don't want your spikes to touch the cement. That's the only time you touch your heel to the ground. So when you're on the ball of your foot the entire time, it starts to stress the Achilles tendon, which is made of collagen, and the collagen develops through collagen synthesis, and then it starts to thicken that rubber band up, and then that can make you pop quicker.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why those track athletes are able to touch the ground and re-express very quickly. Whereas in the weight room, all you're doing is touching down, even touching your heel to the ground, and now
you're creating force through your heel in the weight room.
Yeah,
there's nothing that you create your force through the ball of the foot, so you don't actually know how to express any of that force that you have.
Nowhere. And
like, this was a big thing with a lot of stuff I learned through myself, and Dave just guided me and telling me. But it's like, I put all this power on the ground, I could jump really high and all that, but my limiting factor was my lower leg. And you said it the other day, you're like, I'm probably better off having a lower vertical leap because my ankle is still so far behind where my upper leg is. So when I drive it in, I lose.
The higher you jump, the slower you're going to run.
Yeah.
Because you're going to absorb too much ground. You're going to push your ankle back too hard.
Because I got to do so much more lower leg stuff.
So the track work that you're doing is the best thing that you're doing right now. But any of you guys, we have shoes that we've sold. We haven't sold them. I've referred people to about 10 pairs now have been sold of these things called Antipes muscle runners. And the point of them is that they're a negative lift. So meaning the front of the shoe has way more. So
that means that your Achilles is
stretched now. And it has a carbon fiber plate, so it doesn't bend. So it keeps you have to stay up on the ball of your foot if you're going to move forward. and it really stresses your
it's
Achilles.
amazing.
Even track people wearing them have been like, yo, this takes some
is
getting
legit.
used to.
Yeah.
Because it keeps you up really high. I'm used to them because I wore long jump spikes where it has a negative lift. I'm used to jumping off of that and having a high negative lift. So, and you're used to having your heel off. The back of the shoe is holding your heel up off the ground. So you don't have to use that at all. And then you're not stressing your Achilles tendon, so you're not being elastic.
Yeah.
And as soon as you overstride, your heel strikes the ground and rolls you forward.
Exactly.
It does it for you. We don't want that.
And this is like something, being on the track topic is like, and I, probably going to maybe offend some people, but dude, I hear like these track coaches and the workouts that these kids are doing at high school, and kids are like, dude, I'm getting significantly slower because the volume that they're hitting in track is so high that what do they end up doing? And we see it. We're not going to name any names, but it turns into heel strikes, forward posture, running with bad arms, bad mechanics, no lead lift because the volume is so high in track. I don't know, bless the coaches for being out there and helping the kids, but it's almost in most places it's now almost a negative adaptation for most kids that aren't natural runners. They go and they run track to get faster, and they end up running around the school 3 times and then running 4 200s, 400s, and then a 400 meter to end it, and then they go home and they're like, why did I not get faster? Well, you took 0 time in between on break, you ran on the heel of your foot, and you ran way too much, and then you're going to do that 5 days a week. Whereas we talked about this yesterday, is like we came in and we broke down how much time under tension, how much time we were actually working in the facility on the application field side. Less than 1 minute worth of work was done yesterday. And all the classes, less than 1 minute worth of work was done on the field. And that is by design. Right? That is by design. And then you rest.
What he means by that, so you guys know, if you're only working for 2.5 seconds.
It's in bursts.
And then you rest for a minute and a half or whatever.
Yeah, it's not like just
full exertion.
Yeah.
But if you accumulate those things, yes, it's less than a minute.
Yeah, it's less than technically a total minute under tension, and it's like, why? Because even though we're doing acceleration, we have to and that's why we only do max V once a week, because max velocity takes so long to recover from. You do a max velocity workout and you're a high-level athlete, the forces that you have to go with, or the forces that you create and have to absorb, are so high that it takes 2, 3, 4 days to recover from. So then you're like, all right, well, how can I train more? I can't just train 2, 3 days a week. So what do? We have acceleration, initial force generation, and then we got max V. So now you can hit 3 high quality. Some kids hit 4 really high quality workouts during the week, and then we finish up with that max velocity, because then we know, all right, you got the weekend, 2, 3, 4 days to recover. Then we get into acceleration, because we know acceleration is going to be as high of a CNS, workout and movement.
One of the greatest coaches I've ever known had me for 1 year, Keith McDermott.
Mm-hmm.
Just really, he understood this a lot. He was a sprinter, 26-foot long jumper.
Yeah.
And I'm not a 200 runner. I'm too big to be a 200 runner. I was almost 200 pounds running the deuce. No good, right? It helps. The weight helps you for about 30, 40 yards, and then after that, you need to be lean, and or have a real good background on the 400 meters, which I don't. So he has us running 3 200s a week. And he's training all the 200-meter runners. It's the first time I ever went under 21.5 in the I went 21.42. The week, it was 3 weeks out. He has us running 3 200s.
Yep.
That's it. And we had to run them in just under 22 seconds or whatever. And it was with a jogging lead. So it was kind of a little bit of help there. And that was it. We'd walk the track, full recovery, come back and do it again. And then I was like, oh, shoot, why did we do it 3 times? Because you made your trials, semis, finals. That's it. Be ready for that.
Yeah.
So we kept doing that. I think it was actually 8 or 9 weeks, leading up to the meet. And I was like, we were ready.
Mm-hmm.
We were all ready. We did our drilling. We did everything we needed. But then we'd get into the 200s. That's all we did.
Yeah.
And it was low volume, high quality. And then we just added to the quality. And he kept taking the times down week by week. And I remember we were running 21.7 with a jogging lead in the 200. I knew I was going to from a block in a race, I'm going to run way faster.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. Every single one of us ran our fastest 200 ever. And before that, we were running 4.224, 4.224, 4.224, and then dying. I'm losing all this weight. I'm losing my, and a ton of endurance. Times weren't going any faster.
Yeah, and I think that to tie it back into the multi-sport, playing multiple sports and all that, it's you can play multiple sports, but if you're going to go play basketball and your basketball, is all year round, and we talk about this, the AAU and 7-on-7 stuff. Like, if you're going to go play AAU basketball, but you don't start on your varsity team yet, you're not dropping 20 a game, and then you're just going to go play in Ohio because you want to play basketball and then go play against kids in Ohio to get beat or to play or whatever, and you're not even dominating, your actual public or league or the league that you're in, you need to think like, okay, how can I dominate my league? Well, more basketball isn't making me better at basketball, because how do you equalize size? And the top basketball players in the country are what? They're all relatively big. I would say they're all physically very big. And you talked, and you made me understand this, and I'd never forgot, is like, how do you equalize size in basketball? Displacement. So how do you get better at basketball? You need to be able to move better in basketball. So what does that mean? That means increase your vertical leap, your initial force displacement, increase your acceleration, and then max velocity will raise all those up with it. And now your reaction time's getting better, and then, oh, wait, what has basketball done with AAU and even high school teams? A lot of suicides, a lot of conditioning. Well, you'll be conditioned because you're going to be faster than 90% of people on the court.
Yeah. I'll never forget what you said when you said, no one's ever got a scholarship because they're in the best shape. They get the best scholarships because they're the best displacement. They have the best displacement.
Yeah,
they're not. That guy's in great shape. Better throw an offer at him.
Like ever.
You can get anybody in shape.
Yeah, anybody can get into shape, and that's like, it's like even in like, people think traditionally, like soccer players run 9 miles a game. Like, we gotta run a lot. It's like, college and pros coaches aren't coming in and going, show me your most conditioned athlete. Like, that's never on the list of boxes to check. They're saying, show me your most explosive athlete. Like, and normally, I don't know about you, you were probably always the fastest guy on your football team. How often were you tired in the fourth quarter?
Well, I could get tired in 2-minute drill.
I'm saying everybody's tired in 2-minute drill. Yeah. But I'm saying that normally the fast athletes are the guys that are in really good shape. Are doing it really well. It's easy for
me to run, so I didn't get tired as quickly.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I could touch and go real easily.
Bounce across the field, move.
You can tell some of the guys that are track guys versus the guy that's just grinding to get to move across the field, and those who just tap the ground and they re-express very quickly. It's easy to run.
Yeah,
and that's where some of the best runners in the world, you're looking at, they're not doing cardio. They're not. Their
best sprinters are not.
Heart rate isn't the best. It's just that they're so elastic that they don't need to. They're not even huffing and puffing at the end of a quarter mile or 400 hurdles.
Well, that's what I've been listening to. We love Tony Holler. He's a great coach, but he's like, I hear these parents talk about my son or daughter's a really good 400-meter runner. He just needs to get in more shape. She just needs to get in more shape. No. Gotta get faster, because if you're the fastest on the track, you can run 24, 25 miles an hour, or in high school you're a girl and you're running 21 miles an hour, 22 miles an hour. Well, you holding 18 around the track is going to be a whole lot easier than somebody who's only a 19 mile an hour max velocity girl. She may get you, maybe she has a better start, but in that 400 meters, you just got to be flat out fast. And it doesn't matter what shape you're in. Everybody looks the same running down that stretch of the floor. They just look like they're all tired. You know what I mean? Then they get through it and they grind through the gear, and then they run better, and they run better times because they're probably faster runners. Like, in 9 times out of 10 cases, it's just they're a faster runner.
Yeah, I love track and field because it's immeasurable. We do all the measurables, and there's this crazy rivalry between Rai Benjamin and what's the kid's name from Netherlands or wherever he's from. He's a world record holder in the 400 hurdles. He's run 45 seconds.
Wow.
These guys go back and forth. They continuously break the world record. Karsten, whatever his name is. I'll think of it. Somebody correct me on this. And he runs the 400 hurdles. He has to hold back because he's running a hurdle. So he's constantly holding back from what he's capable of in the 400. And he constantly tries to close the gap between what he's capable of in the 400 and how much he has to hold back.
Yeah.
And then his technical, how he techniques over the hurdles and everything. So that's the other side, the technical side of everything. If you are completely exerted, then you can't focus on your technical aspect.
Exactly.
There's a huge technical aspect to running and trying to make it you're fluid.
And even in acceleration and even in football, like just yesterday, we had 2 kids. We fixed just them. And this is part of being, I think, a good coach that I've learned from very good coaches is like, less is more information for a lot of these kids. Like, they don't need you to tell them where to place their foot and their shin angle and their femur angle and all of this stuff and overcomplicate it. Just try to give them the right cue to measure it. And both kids added 1 mile per hour in the same day just from changing their form. And we talked about this with another thing you have to think about with weightlifting is like, How do you weightlift? Well, normally your back is a bit bent. It may be neutral, but it's in front of the body. It's not in a straight line. But when you play football or when you play basketball or when you play anything and you displace yourself, you want to extend that hip and be in a straight line head to heel when you're accelerating or when you're getting off the ball. And that position becomes less and less learned as you continue to give it more, your body more stimulus and more adaptation that leads away from that straight line head to heel.
We call it cutting the pole a lot in cleans, but you'll see that someone doesn't even bring their hips back to their coronal plane. They're actually leaving it back and just kind of almost moving up and down, staying in a hunch position and not actually pushing all the way through.
And over time, what does your body do?
Yeah.
That becomes your power position.
That is where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And your body is going to adapt to the things that you put the most stress on it, and you continuously do it for hours a day. And then you end up having all these hunched runners like that. And then the people that maybe didn't even do weights have an advantage on you because you put a negative expression on your movement. And which is like, it kind of stinks because you guys your effort is there and your heart was in the right place. Your brain was not.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's like, it happened to me. I learned it. Like I went through the whole thing, and now with these kids playing, 10, 11 sports, I think it's better to think more of, okay, like, what does my son or daughter want to be like? All right, they're still exploring sports. Okay, let's pick a couple let's do 2 sports a year. But play 2 sports a year from the time they're 6 to 12. They'll figure out what they like for the most part. They figure out what they like, and then from there you can figure out what type of athlete you want to be. And then you're like, okay, fast switch athlete, boom, go. And it doesn't even have to be a fast switch athlete. If you're we do swimmers, you can, obviously Destin Lasco, swimmers, Addison Conti, crew, right? Cruz's sister is going to come in. She rose at Notre Dame. Crew, you improve your vertical leap, you improve your max effort times. All those erg scores went up with all of them and all these different sports.
I'm going to throw one at you that's probably, right now you're going to be like, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, you're totally right. CJ Eggery. Yep. He's a kid that his dominant stimulus has always been training at my place, right? And then this year, he was hurt. He hit the weights. Didn't affect him at all. His motions haven't changed. He's added some muscle. He's added some weight. He still moves like a savage because his dominant stimulus for that long, the weight room does not affect him.
That's it.
The weight room affected him positively.
Positive adaptation.
Because he has been here, and he's been doing it since he's a kid. And he can pop off ridiculous scores, even with the weight, because he hasn't changed.
His vertical leap actually went up a little bit. And that's because his motor patterns.
We're not against the weight.
Yeah, no.
Use it right. Use it right, and it works. You overuse it, and you're turning into a bodybuilder.
Yeah, and that's why his motor patterns are ingrained. The way everything should work is conducive to his sport and natural movement patterns within his sport. So then you add some weights and you add some force and you add a little bit of new stimulus, right? Going up at Holy Cross, lifting weights with a pretty good program up there. And what happened? Before it went up. Yeah. Acceleration times are still right where they're at, and he weighs a little bit more, so now he has a little bit more mass, hits the ball a little bit harder, throws a little bit harder because he has more mass, and now everything's really working out for him, and, pro teams are calling.
Yeah. He's a pro. If you see him, that's what they look like. They're different.
Yeah.
And he is totally that.
Yeah, no, I don't, it's funny when he rolls into a class where nobody knows him, they're just like, whoa. My God, what was that?
He looks fast. Yeah. Like everything about him looks fast and aggressive. And I used to do things a little bit more smooth, a little bit more elongated. But it's something that maybe you couldn't tell I was moving on you like that. Some people do it really good. Xavier Saab, he just kind of moves. You can't tell that he's doing it. Mm-hmm. But people do things different. Their bodies are built differently. Your legs are different lengths. You have a different RSI. You can jump higher. One can jump lesser. So it depends. Everybody is different on how they do it. But that's what we do in the gait analysis. We'll try to find it and try to attack what you need to work on so that your scores can come up.
And here's another question too is like, what should offensive and defensive linemen do in the off season? Like, should they wrestle? Should they run track? And like, you can pick between that. Like, we're not against any of those, but again, make sure that it's a sport that you know that you're going to get something out of. I think wrestling's great for older people or for offensive linemen, but what are all? I've been researching this nonstop. All the best guys, like the NFL offensive linemen that have lasted years and years in the NFL, all are extremely fast. Like Jason Peters, 4.7, 4.8, 40 at 330 pounds. Andrew Whitworth on the LA Rams, just looked at it today, ran a 5.14 at 6.7, 330, which is unbelievable. I don't like, you hear 5.14, you don't think it's fast. It's unbelievable times. And speed is speed, right? If you're slow and you're going to the NFL, you're only going to get slower as you get older. So you better go in pretty dang fast so that when you're at the end of your career, you're still moving at a pro level. And I think that that's something that a lot of offensive linemen and defensive linemen miss. And we have Damari Simeon right now who's killing it on scholarships, and he's been with us for 3 years, right? Probably about three cycles. He's jumping 32 inches at 270, 280 pounds. His get-off is amazing. What did we tell him when he was in 8th grade? We're like, dude, you're going to become the most explosive defensive lineman there is, and that's where the offers are going to come from. You have size, but there's a lot of kids across the United States that look like you physically. There's not a lot of kids that can look like you and then move at that level that you're at. And that's exactly what we did. Now offers are rolling in for him. He worked his butt off.
My friend Derek Blaylock wrote a rap song about the Chiefs, and he said, and this is a quote, he said one time, he says, at 6 foot, 200, I'm the smallest back, but I feel like 250 at the point of attack. Now, the reason for that, right, is because of how great of an accelerator he was.
Yeah.
So he ran a 4.34 at the combine. It was the fastest running back at the combine, and he really was a great accelerator. Hit the hole extremely fast. And there was, when we take Damari, who is a big boy, but at the college level, he's going to be the same size as everybody else. But he's going to hit you faster, so you're going to produce a point of attack is the 50% line between you and your opponent. Whoever hits that first has the momentum battle. Whoever hits at the lowest and the fastest has the momentum. It has 2 points of the win. So then you can overcome somebody's size with your speed or with how low you get to the ground. And as a defensive lineman, he is on his way to something very, very special.
And guess what his training plan was last cycle? Acceleration, initial force generation, and we sprinted him at max velocity. He did full speed sprints, or we did a build up to that 10-yard fly. He's running 10-meter flies or 10-yard flies at 280 pounds. And that's what that's what offensive linemen and defensive linemen should be doing. Why? Because first off, nobody else is doing that as an offensive defensive lineman. For whatever reason, they're just thinking, I just got to go squat more weight. I just got to. Dan DeFeo is a elite accelerator. He's a leading accelerator for people in the facility. Not just because he's 280 pounds as a 6 foot defensive lineman. So I can tell you that his film is going to look significantly different this year. Significantly different.
Our throwers in college, and we had some of the best throwers. A girl named Jackie Sedgwick, a girl named Zara Norover, who went to the Olympics in Jamaica. I remember watching them at practice, and they would not just throw multiple size med balls nonstop, different directions, run short speed, real short sprints, throw a ball, sprint, throw a ball, 10-yard, 20-yard sprint, as fast as they possibly could, throw a ball, different weights, throw them different directions. I mean, as hard as they could, every one, because that's what they're doing, exerting a maximum effort. And I remember I'm like, you guys, I wish our linemen trained this way versus training in just the weight room to get mass. These guys had kept all of their mass, but they were built very twitchy. They move, they could jump really high.
If you look at the top throwers in the world and you go through, we should do a video on this. The top throwers in the world are all 280. They look like offensive and defensive linemen. And what do they do? I've seen videos of jumpers or throwers doing 36, 37 in the vertical leap at 260, 70, 80, 90 pounds. And then they can go out there and they can throw the ball, really far, the med ball or whatever it is. I forget the
box jumping, hurdles, and everything.
They look like freaks. Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen an offensive lineman move that way.
No. And
except for guy I play with. We'll talk about that in a second.
But and then again, boil that training back to what do? They sprint, they jump. They sprint, they jump. Everything is maximum effort, maximum rest, and they do it again. And they repeat it consistently. And speed, again, this is why playing multiple sports is you're taking a gamble if you don't know that what your coach is going to have you doing or what the adaptation is going to be, because speed takes a long time to train. That's why people think speed is genetic. People think vertical leap and jumping is genetic. No, it's just vertical leap. We can get you up pretty fast, but actual max velocity takes time. In 12 weeks, we'll only see about 2 miles an hour, and then after that, it gets incrementally smaller and smaller and smaller in the amount of difference that we can make, because we're really getting into the nitty-gritty part of your central nervous system and your brain and your actual genetic potential. But if you train with us you started out as a freshman and you run 17 miles an hour. If we had 4 miles an hour and you leave at 21, you're pretty fast. If you start with us at 18 miles an hour and we had 1 mile an hour for a year on a conservative, outlook of it, you're pretty fast. If you start at 20, you're leaving in your senior year at 24 miles an hour. That's a Division I kid.
And everything that we have gone over right now, we have done off camera 1,000 times over. It's like we have lost our minds talking about this, and if and the word's getting out and it's working. Obviously, we have a scope of it's huge, our huge scope, because we're looking at possibly working and partnering up in a facility up in Tingsboro, Massachusetts. And he says, all right, so I got to move into this neighborhood, right, where I got to move into this neighborhood where I live. I'm like, nope. What we have is a 45 to 50 mile scope where our athletes come from. We looked at like this. We try to triangulate all the zip codes from where everybody's come from, and it's actually more up like north of like Hamilton, because we have so many people coming from that far away. We just live down here, so it's easier for us. But it's easier for us to ride. But if you actually use the zip code calculator, we're like north of here towards Philadelphia. But there's so many people. And they come from so far. Now we got kids coming from Baltimore 2 days a week, Delaware 2 days a week. But it's a huge feather in the cap that we do that. However, like, you know, even if you're local, talking about, you know, you're very blessed to have this. And I'm not saying this because it's my place. Take me out of it. But I would be spending every moment here thinking, this is what we think of every day. What would we have done if we had this knowledge when we were kids?
I moved down here. Yeah. You know, I moved down here to work here and train here and everything. So
the advantage that you have is obvious, because we're going to give you those in miles per hour. The significance of that is if we can gain 2.5 miles per hour on an athlete's maximum velocity, again, you at your old max velo. Just say you never had that. We never got you faster. We would move where you reached maximum velocity about a third closer to your start line. So your acceleration doesn't go like this. It goes like this.
It shoots right up.
And then if you need the extra gear, boom, it's there, right? And you'll have it so that you'll have it anyway. So your max velocity doesn't look like this. Just by your your acceleration will look more like really high level and going up higher, right? And then you can play and think more. That's the thing with sharpshooters, is they are able to lower their heart rate and play. They're able to shoot where their heart rate doesn't ever raise up. If your heart rate raises up, you become a bad foul shooter. You become bad. In the NBA, people that understand this are very cardiovascularly fit for that reason. We're not asking that. We're asking you to play, not shoot. We're asking you to play and move around and navigate a field where you have gears left over so you can accelerate to it. I'll give you an example too, myself. I would run a route, I would say at around 90% on the adjust, knowing that if I had to, the ball was thrown in front of me, I had to adjust even more to it, or I could always slow down. But I needed a gear in case the ball was thrown out there a little further. I needed one gear extra to get to it to separate from the defensive back. And you don't have that when you're all you can do is back up to the ball, right? So you're giving a maximum effort. If you know, so like you training increases those miles per hour, it shows up on the field all over the place, all the time, and you're like, man, that was easy, and it wasn't hard. I could work at a lower pace. I had more than what I could do at a maximum outcome. So now I had more left over in the fourth quarter. And I know nobody's thinking about the fourth quarter, but it shows up. It happens. And then you're like, whoa, these guys are super tired, and I'm not tired.
Yeah, there's no coincidence why like these elite players make those plays in the fourth quarters. There's no coincidence. They've been working, they've been training right, and our guys show up every time. They're very impactful players on their team, and they train like it all year, you know.
Well, I think we went. We had a deep enough dive into this rant. We'll get many others. I'm sure, you know, after you read into some of this stuff, you'll understand at least how passionate we are and pretty educated on it. I mean, this is what we do every day for the past 20 years I've been doing this now. So we'll catch you on the flip side on the next one.
Yeah, on the next one.
All right.
Perfect. Nice. Yo.
What's up, Henry? How's it going, brother?
How we doing?